Bummer. Yeah,
All right. We are live on Facebook and we're recording here. So Danny Doyle, over to you.
Thank you, Cindy Bark. Thanks for coming on and setting that up. All right, guys, going to introduce Stephen Hilgart. Amazing man. Tony Robbins' #1 trainer. Let me get a little bit of write up here, just a little bit about Stephen. He has personally used what he learned from his mentor, Tony Robbins, the man himself, to start, build, and sell 3 successful businesses. And he has brought his energy, passion, and strategies to over 2,500 companies like Salesforce, Keller Williams, Century 21, World Financial Group, New York Life, Wells Fargo, ASEA, and ASEA again, and many, many more. Stephen guides his audiences and teams through the highest standards of training, so each individual can make immediate and massive shifts in not only performance and business, but their lives. Stephen has the experience, strategies, and energy to inspire audiences into action. And tonight we have him for a solid 30 minutes talking about advanced leadership training. Stephen Hilgart, thank you so much for coming on again.
It's such a pleasure.
As I said, you were an absolute smash hit last time. And this call will build. It's out there, but obviously there's some people coming on late. But mate, over to you.
I better be good. I better be fast. I love these ones because I can barely say my name in 30 minutes, let alone give a whole seminar and give a whole class. Hey team, just so everyone's here, can you do me a favor? Just throw the #1 in the chat box if you can see me, hear me. Everything is good. Audio is good. Video is good. Deanna. Okay, great. Fantastic. I'm going to switch over to the whiteboard here for just a minute, so I have something to write on. Hopefully you guys can still see me and hear me. We got a little reverb. There we go. Now you can see my whiteboard. There we go. And I still need to open up the chat box. There it is. Oh, and I suppose you guys can't see me if I've got my whiteboard on, huh? Oh, I see. All right, well, that's okay.
We can see you to the side of the whiteboard.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so I better look at something here. Well, team, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm super excited to be with you. Dan and I were just chatting back and forth a little bit through text message. What do we want to cover tonight? And tonight is about leadership. And leadership is an interesting word because what is it? A lot of people view leadership as, I say something, you do it. I say you go and you go, right? I lead, you follow. Well, leadership doesn't mean any of that. Here's what leadership actually means. Leadership is influence. Leadership is influence. And here's what's so fascinating. I told this story earlier today. I thought it would be very good for you guys too. When I first started speaking for Tony Robbins, it's been 7 years now, coming up on 8. I've done over 3,000 workshops like this for companies all over the country, all over the world. And at the beginning of my career speaking for Tony Robbins, people would stand up at the end and they'd clap and they'd cheer and they'd be so excited at the end. And Tony Robbins saw one of my videos of me speaking. We get on a little group call and he saw my video and he was going to give me some feedback on my talk. I was, here's my hero telling me how did I do speaking? I mean, I was excited because they were clapping, they were cheering, standing ovation. I was like, I've got this. Tony's going to tell me how great I am and all this sort of stuff. It's going to be awesome. First words out of his mouth, you suck. And in that moment, here's my hero telling me I'm not a very good speaker. And he said, listen, this is a little bit of shock value. And I say that for a reason, but here's the reason I say this and what I really want you to pay attention to. In your partnership with me, I hired you to change lives, not just to get people to like you. In this position, you are not going to make a bunch of friends at all times. But if you change someone's life, I promise you they will be your friends. And what's interesting is you got all of these people to stand up and clap for you, and every single one of them walked out the door and nobody signed up. And he says, listen, it's not about my ego. It's not about Tony Robbins. It's not about them pulling out their credit card so we get a ticket sale and they get to come to a Tony Robbins seminar. It's about them doing something to change their life right then and there. If you want to be a leader, you must be an influencer. And if you need to be an influencer, you need to get someone to, in that room, make a decision that they're going to change their life right then, right there. Because what do most people do? They clap, they cheer, they feel good, they walk out the door, and they do exactly what they were doing before they came into that class. And he said, I didn't hire you to do that. I hired you to effing change lives. And if you're going to continue to be in partnership with me to change lives, this is what I need you to get through. And it really hit me hard. It started to get me to understand that it really wasn't about selling from the stage. It was about getting people to actually take action after I'd spoke to them. Because a lot of speakers can stand up and say nice things and people clap and cheer for them, but there's not a lot of speakers who can get up on the stage and get people to actually go march. And here's a skill set that if you master this skill set here tonight, if you get some basic inklings, I know we're going to do a big workshop here next week, but tonight I want to give you just a big high level overview. And here's where we really should focus. If we're going to talk about leadership, there's several levels. And if we're going to talk about several levels of leadership, we got to talk about different levels of influence. But just for a real quick question here to get this thing rolling, what defines our lives? Throw your answers in the chat box. I know it's a big question, but just give me the random answer. The first thing that comes up to the gut answer, what is it? What defines your life? Relationships. Tammy, that's a great answer. I love that one. What else? Give it to me. Love. Outlook. Hopefully not your email server, right? Connection, health, our purpose, who you are. Beautiful. I like these answers. Family. Good answers. Compelling future. There we go, Peg. Come on. Check this out. Purpose, faith. I love it. Hey, guys, family, our principles, experiences. These are fantastic answers. And here's what I've noticed. Everything that you've pretty much labeled here is what we like to call invisible forces. What really directs our lives is a series of invisible forces. Now, that sounds so esoteric. It sounds kind of hairy-fairy, but listen, gravity is an invisible force. Too much or too little of it, we're dead. Radiation, same thing. Too much, too little of it, we're dead. You can't see these things. They're invisible forces that have a direct impact on your life. And one of the biggest invisible forces that I'll give you here tonight, emotion. When it comes to human beings, the quality of our life comes down to the quality of emotions that we experience. The quality of our life is the quality of emotions that we experience. So where do these emotions come from? And let me just ask you, have you ever said something you really wish you could have taken back? Would you have said something different in that moment if you were like, baby, I love you, instead of I'm going to kill you right now? Major difference in decision-making based on the emotion we feel in the moment. And where do most people spend their lives? You guys tell me in the chat box. Do they spend most of their lives in positive, empowering emotions or negative ones? You tell me, most people. Not the people on this call, of course, but the rest of the world, the rest of the country. Deanna, most people negative. Tammy, most people negative, 100%. Most people have this superhighway that gets them to stress, frustration, pain, irritation, upset, anger. And they've got a dirt road that takes them to happiness. If we're going to be leaders, we have to learn a couple of things here. We have to learn, number one, how do we change and manage our emotional state in 1 second? I'm going to write this on the board. It's called the 1 second rule. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so you can see. By the way, again, do me a favor real quick. Just throw the number 1 in there again. Can you see the whiteboard? Great, fantastic. Okay, thank you guys. I appreciate that. What's the 1 second rule? Well, you have to be able to, as a leader, you have to be able to go from pissed off, frustrated, angry, upset, snap out of it in 1 second and be present with your kid. Snap out of it for 1 second, be present with your lover. Snap out of it 1 second, be present with your client. If you can't do that, you can't do much in life. But here's the thing. Most people can do that most of the time. Most people can, at least if they want to, get out of stress and back there. Every one of us has done this before, where you're yelling and screaming and you're upset and you're angry and the phone rings and you go, hello. In 1 second, you transform your entire emotions from anger to hi. In that moment, you change it. So everyone has done this before, but here's where real leaders start to thrive, is when you can do it in the face of your fears. So we just call this face your fears. This is level 2, okay? I'll put these down just as a number. Level 1, you got the 1 second rule. Level 2, you got the face your fears. What does that mean? Well, look, most people can control their emotions most of the time. However, when it comes to that one area of their life that they're afraid, they have a very tough time controlling their emotions. Let me give you the example. For me, in my own life, I grew up very poor. It was very challenging financially, but everything else in my life was great. Great parents. My mom loved me. My dad loved me. They divorced, but they were still in love, with me, and they took care of my sister, my brothers, and I. Everything was great. Happy-go-lucky, dancing, working out, exercising. Some of you guys know my martial arts background. I was a professional fighter. Everything was great. No problems. But the second I looked at my bank account, I would freak out. Why? Because for me, my greatest fear was if I don't have enough money, I won't be enough. And if I'm not enough, nobody will love me. In the face of my greatest fear, I couldn't control my emotions. Therefore, I couldn't control my decisions. Now, for you, it might not be money. For you, it might be something completely different. You might have a set of belief systems in the back of your head that says, listen, money comes and goes. It's no big deal. I can always get a job. I can start a new business. Like I'll be all right. Money always shows up. But for you, it might be something like relationship, where everything is happy-go-lucky, money's no problem, all that stuff is good. But the second you get into a relationship, you start acting really weird. Type the word yes if you've seen people do this before. None of us on this call, none of us would ever do that. But just type in yes if you've seen someone not be able to control their emotions, whether it's financially, in their relationships, when it comes to their health and their fitness. Do we know people who are emotional eaters, where in the moment they get stressed out, so they start eating? Do we know people who get stressed out, they start smoking? Do we know people get stressed out, they start drinking? Here's the thing, as leaders, we must learn how to be able to take control of those fears in that moment and go for it. Some of you guys, I know just a couple of you guys are going to come to the live in-person Tony Robbins event in November. We're completely sold out. So if you don't have a ticket, I'm sorry, you can't come. But on the first night of that event, we do the fire walk. You stand in front of these hot coals. Tony gets you all pumped up emotionally. He says, do you feel good? Yeah. Do you feel powerful? Yeah. Now let's go walk on fire. Everyone's like, wait, what? 15 feet, 2,000 degrees, burning hot coals. It can melt steel, but we walk through it barefoot on the first night. Why the hell would you do something like that? Because if you can storm through fire, what you just got yourself to do is take action in spite of your fears. And all of a sudden you get across fire, cold calling is no problem anymore. You get across fire, you face your fears, and you start to say, if I just did that, I can do anything. That's when we talk about facing your fears. But now, what does this mean? Level 3 here is what we call turn fear into power. And here's how I like to define it, okay? I call it the 1 second rule. And then when we say face your fears, I like to say face your tigers. The things that scare you, that jump out of the jungle, that try to get you, right? But level 3 is now when your tigers or your fears now trigger you to be at your best. Is it possible to have something you once feared now be your favorite thing to talk about, guys? Yes or no? Is that possible? Throw it in the chat box. Is it possible that the thing that you once feared now triggers you to be at your best? You're excited to talk about it. You're excited to think about it. Listen, I conquered this with Tony in my own life, with my finances. I was so afraid of money. I didn't want to look at my bank account. I didn't want to talk about taxes. I don't want to. Now my favorite subject in my life is money. I can't wait.
Stephen,
yes, sir.
Frozen for everybody, guys?
Oh, did I freeze?
Me?
No, he's
Just
good.
checking in.
He's good. It's all working.
It's just you, Dan. Is it okay? We're all good. And Deanna says it too. It was all you. You know what's so interesting? Like I said, for me, it was always funny. I'm on business number 5 now. Things are going pretty well for me these days. When I talk about money, it's one of the most exciting things I can talk about. I can't wait to make more, do more. And for me, it's not about the Lamborghinis or the mansions or anything like that. What for me it is what I can do with that money. I want to travel. I want to have experiences. One of my big goals I hit about 2 years ago, I brought my entire family to Mexico for Christmas. You say that you're going to take the family to Mexico for Christmas. All of a sudden you have a lot more family members, I found out. So it ended up being 42 people I had to pay for 10 days, all their flights, all their hotels, all their travel and everything. But for me, it was one of the coolest things in my life. Why? Because I went from being broke and homeless and stressed out about money to not being worried about money, spending it, and being able to take care of my family. And I know this company is an interesting one because it allows you to create financial freedom like that. But the thing that I can give you tonight is, how do you face that fear? How do you tackle that fear? You got to turn those fears into your power. Where someone used to be afraid, they would eat when they're stressed out, they would gain a bunch of weight, and they would always be worried or upset about how they look. Now all of a sudden they're bodybuilders, and they've taken that fear, they've turned it into power. And they watch what they eat. They're excited to talk about it. They can't wait to talk about their workouts and everything else that they're doing. I mean, it's just a perfect example. If this is making sense so far, give me the number 1 in the chat box again, if this is making sense. Now, what does this have to do with leadership? Well, a couple of things. These 3 things are something you have to do. Before I ever try to influence somebody else, who do I need to be able to influence first? You guys tell me, before I influence somebody else, who do I need to be able to influence first? Deanna, you got it first. Self, you got it. So how do you start to do this? Well, there's 4 levels. 4 levels. Level 1 is when you can do this to yourself. Okay. This is the basic rule of leadership. If I want to be a leader, leadership is not I say you follow. Leadership is I go first. Leadership is lead by example. If you have team members underneath you and they're not making phone calls, you better be the one to make the phone calls to show them that you can still do it, that you'll do it, that you'll get out there and make it happen. When I owned my martial arts school, some of you guys know my background. I had 1,000 active students. It was one of the biggest karate schools in the United States. At the end of the night, the school needed to be cleaned. When I had my teenagers and my coworkers and my staff and all these people at the end of the night, I would say, okay, what's the chore that you don't want to do? I'm going to go do it. And what would they always say? We don't want to clean the toilets. Okay, great. I'll clean the toilets. You guys wipe down the mirrors. And what was that? Leading by example. And what's so funny about that, eventually, and I'll talk about this in a second here, but eventually they were the ones who started to step up and make the harder decisions. They said, you know what, Mr. Hilgart, tonight, I'll clean the toilets. You take care of the windows. Great idea. But if you can do this for yourself, what do I mean self? Well, you got to take yourself through these 3 things right here. You got to be able to get yourself to transform your emotions in 1 second. You got to be able to transform your emotions in the face of your fears in 1 second. I'm scared, but I do it anyways. I'm scared about the money. I'm going to invest anyways. I'm scared to work out. I'm going to do it anyways. I'm scared to make that phone call. I'm going to do it anyways. Deanna said it so beautifully. Don't expect others to do things that you're not willing to do yourself. Thank you so much, Deanna. You're on this. Now, again, you got to be able to get that. But now here's the last part. You have to learn how to condition yourself to now be excited about what you used to fear. This is where life really transforms for us. This is personal development at its root. How do you get yourself to take action in spite of your fears? And then on top of that, how do you get yourself to actually enjoy the process? Where you used to hate running, but you forced yourself to run, you push yourself, and then one day you're on a run, you're listening to music, and you're smiling, and you realize, I no longer hate this, I love this. That's when you've transformed your life. But now here's what level 2 of leadership is. 1-to-1. This is when you can become a sales professional. This is when you can become a coach. When you can help one person do these 3 things. You can help them transform their emotions in 1 second. You can get them to laugh. You can joke. You can tease. You can prod. You can interrupt their pattern. They're getting stressed out and frustrated and angry, and you snap out of it and get them to focus on something else. Level 2 is when you can get someone to take action in spite of their fears. God, man, I really want to start this ASEA business. I want to make this happen, but what am I going to do? How am I going to find the time for this? How am I going to get to do this? Your job as a leader is to get them to take action in spite of those fears, to help them alleviate those fears and get them to still move forward. That's what we're talking about here. Here's the last piece. You got to be able to 1-to-1 get someone to take those fears that they once feared and coach them in a way that's going to get them excited about it. where they used to be afraid of business, where they used to be afraid of getting rejection, where they used to be afraid of asking for the sale. Now all of a sudden they're excited about it. They can't wait to get rejection. They have a belief in the back of the head that says one more rejection is one more closer to a yes. They're not rejecting me, they're rejecting my offer. Let me tune this in so I can have a better offer for next time. You have to be the one to be able to help these people turn their fears into power. Again, if I'm making sense here, throw a 1 in the chat box. I know I'm going very fast, so I'm just asking for that clarification. Great, 1-to-1. Now here's level 3, when you can do this 1-to-many. This is level 3 of leadership and where most people struggle. And I'll tell you, it's not easy. When you can stand in front of a room of individuals, on a stage in front of individuals, in front of a small team of individuals, on a Zoom call with individuals, and get everyone on that call to snap out of the emotions. Everyone's stressed out. Did you hear the news? Oh my God, this is the end of the world. And you're the one that steps up and gets them to focus on something else in that moment and gets them out of that emotion of fear and gets them into excitement, gets them out of fear into happiness, fear, humor, whatever it is. You're helping them transform their emotion in 1 second. Next, you got to be able to get that team of people to be able to face their fears. Listen, I'm scared, but I'm going to do it anyways. I'm scared to make these calls. I'm scared to do the team. I'm scared to do the recruiting. I'm scared to ask for referrals, but you know what? We're all going to do it together. And here's how. Let me teach you. Let me show you. If you look at this, Tony Robbins is a master at this. He can stand in front of an audience, in front of a crowd, and change their emotions like this and get them to walk on fire, get them to do things that they never thought they were capable of. In that moment, he inspires them to step up to the next level. Not just because he says, I say jump, you say how high, but so they can overcome their own challenges, their own fears. And who actually does it? The individual, not the leader. The leader is just the guide. And if you've been a good leader so far, you know how to change your emotions in 1 second. You know how to get yourself to face your fears. You know how to get yourself to turn that fear into power. So you can help one person. If you can help one person, you can start to help many people. It might start with 2 people. It might move to 5 people, 10 people. At this point in my career, Tony Robbins could walk into a room and affect 60,000 people at one moment. I aspire to do that. I start to lose connection after about 3,000 people in a room. 3,000 people, I can get them to hand this, to just tear it up to the next level. I'm fully connected. I'm looking in the eyeballs of all 3,000 people. We're there. As I get better with my leadership, as I get better with my speaking, as I get better with my communication, I hope that moves from 3 to 4 to 5 to 10,000 someday. Just as Tony Robbins taught me, he said it'll happen if you keep working on this skill set. Here's the last level, what I like to call legendary influence. Legendary influence. This is when your influence happens to someone, even if you're not there. What's the perfect example? Well, let me ask you a question. How many of you can think of something your mother or your father said to you when you were little? They said it to you so many times that when you hear somebody say it, you hear it in their voice. How many of you have something like that? If you have something like that, throw it in the chat box. What's something your mother or your father said so many times to you throughout your life? They said it so many times that you not only know the phrase by heart, you say it in their voice, with their tonality, with their thing. Give me the sentence. What is it? Every cloud has a silver lining. Thank you, Sharon. Just keep on living. You know, there's some interesting terms. Always walk the talk. She's the educated one. Don't put off tomorrow what you can do today. You're great. I told you so. Be a good citizen. If at first you don't succeed, try again. So here's what's fascinating. Even our parents have a certain level of legendary influence on us, don't they? When you hear, who do you think you are today? You know, some of these old jokes. One of my father would just, he would not stop saying this. You know, the old serviceman's motto, right? If it breaks, it needed replacing anyways. You know, like what? What does that have to do with anything? He would always say this in conjunction with another one. He said, If it doesn't fit, force it. Like, okay, great. Who died and made you king? So here's what's fascinating, team. I would be willing to bet that already, if you've had some talks with Dan, if you've been around Dan for any amount of time, he probably has said something multiple times that you've already picked up. You know one of his phrases, you know one of his sentences. He won't stop saying it. What is that one? Let's pick on Dan for a second here. What is something that he says all the damn time that you can't get out of your head sometimes? Or maybe somebody else. All out massive action. There we go. It's funny, and we laugh and we joke about these, but here's what's interesting. Do these lessons, do these words, do they have an influence on our direction in life, guys? Yes or no? When you hear Dan tell you all day, every day, all out massive action, you can't help but hear that. And the more you hear it in the back of your head, the more it influences you. How many beliefs were ingrained in us as a child? What do you think about money? Money doesn't grow on trees. What do I look like? A bank to you? We have these beliefs. So it is our job as leaders to help people get through these three things. So if you want to be a great leader, here's the 3 rules, the 3 levels, and then here's the 4 things that you need to be able to do with them. Now, for a lot of people on this call, you might be stuck between these 2 right here. For some of the people on this call, you might be stuck between these 2 right here. It doesn't matter where you're at today. What matters is where you decide you're going to go. So our job here tonight, as we wrap this up, is to have this brief conversation of what are you going to do here, here, and here. Now, I've got 3 minutes left with you guys. So let me give you this last little piece. Is this making sense so far? Yes or no? Great. So let me give you this last little piece. And how do you actually change your emotions in 1 second? How do you actually get someone to change their emotions in 1 second? Where do your emotions come from? If you're taking notes, draw a triangle somewhere on your notes. On this triangle, at the very top of it, I want you to write the word physiology. Physiology. It's a very fancy word for how do you move and how do you breathe. Tell me quickly, because we've only got 3 minutes. Behind this wall behind me, I've got someone depressed. What do they look like? You tell me, is their head up or down? Down. Are their shoulders back or are they slumped? Shoulders slumped, head down. Jeanette's got it. Are they breathing full or are they breathing shallow? How do we all know this? Because we've all been depressed before. Here's the thing that people mistake when it comes to emotions. You don't feel an emotion and then put your body that way. No, you put your body that way and then you start to feel that emotion. If you need to snap yourself or someone else out of fear, frustration, anger, stress, the fastest and easiest way to do that is get them to move their body in a different way. We don't have time to go over all the sneaky tricks that you can use, but you must radically shift their physiology. How do you do it simply? Work out, exercise. If you exercise, you feel better at the end. True or false? Even if you hate to go to the gym, you get done with it. How do you feel? Much better, because it meant a radical shift in your physiology. Here's the second piece. It's called focus. Those of you guys who know the Tony language, where focus goes, energy flows. Are you going to focus on the problem or the solution, the opportunity or the crisis? Are you going to focus on everything that's going wrong or could go wrong, or everything that's going right? See, that focus will determine how you feel in the next second. If you want to be a great leader, you need to be able to control your own. Number 2, if someone is stressed out or frustrated, you got to help them focus on something else. Here's the last piece. It's called language. Anybody who is in a negative emotional state, I promise you, they are using negative language to describe how they feel, their situation, what's happening in the world. Even if they're not saying it out loud, they're saying it inside of their head. It is very difficult to be depressed if you stare at the ceiling with a smile, look up and go, "Ee," it's really difficult to be depressed in that moment because you're doing a very different physiology, focus, and language. But it's very easy. If you look down, slump your shoulders, focus on everything that's going to go wrong in your life and all the mistakes you've made in your past, and to say how stupid you are and how dumb this is and how it'll never work. These three things create your emotion. And if you start to practice this, not just with yourself, but with individuals, now all of a sudden, when you walk into a room, you know how to influence someone. When you get on a Zoom call, you know how to influence someone. These are the lessons I wanted to share with you here tonight. I'm exactly at 30 minutes. How the hell did I do, Dan?
Well done. No, that was great. Stephen Hilgart, Tony Robbins' #1 trainer. Really appreciate your time again for the ASEA family.
Always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure.
We know you've got a bit of a surprise for everybody for next week.
Yeah, next week we're gonna do something really cool. We're gonna have a hell of a training. We might, depending on how many people showed up from this one to the next one and the last one, maybe what we can even do is an expanded version of this here. So however I can best serve, I'm excited.
No, that'd be awesome. Listen, guys, there's over 120 people on this call. Make sure you get your teams onto this call that we've got with Stephen Hilgart next Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific time. And if you just, I know you guys are in Australia too and over in Asia. So just wind your clocks back 90 minutes for next Tuesday in the US and in Australia. And Asia, it's on Wednesday. So wind your clock back 90 minutes and we'll get a link out that you can actually register for this event. And it's a 90-minute free event. What's the best price?
Here's the link. Free.
That's it. Okay, so there's the link in the chat box. Stephen's put in. So copy, paste that, register to that event, and we'll also get that out in some marketing during the week. Make sure we get it in all the groups and get it out to all your teams, guys, because you're going to pick up a lot more from Stephen's knowledge and experience from what he and Mr. Robbins has been preaching to the world for so many years. Pleasure and privilege to have you on here, sir. Thank you so much.
Brother, it's fun. It's crazy. I just threw it in the chat box there, Sharon. So if you see the little link, and like Dan just said, he's going to send it out too. So don't freak out if you don't get registered right this second, but you can click on that link in the chat box. I just threw it in there. So yeah, it's the same link. He's going to send it out. I send it there, all that. So
yeah, copy that, paste that, take that, but we will get it out. So don't stress if you don't miss it. We'll leave it up for another minute or so. Stephen, have an incredible night. Thank you so much. I hope that person isn't too depressed behind that wall.
They're hiding in a closet back there. We don't want to let them out until we need them.
And yeah, that's from all of us. There's Cindy waving, and thank you from the whole team. Thank you so much.
Fantastic.
Oh, I screwed this up. There you go. There's the link. Sorry, guys. Sorry. It's in there. I put it to the host. My bad.
Good night, everybody.
Ciao, ciao.
Good night.